Today's video 11 in my series of drawing tutorials where I show you how to draw every single letter of the alphabet as an animal that begins with that letter, all using the iPad and Procreate, and all in real time, no time lapse or edits. Today I'm going to show you how to draw the letter K as a kangaroo. Shout out to Alex Stafford 11 who had the suggestion for today's video, which brings me to the point. If you've got an idea for an upcoming animal, letters L through Z left, definitely leave the suggestion down below in the comments. You might see your idea brought to life in one of the upcoming videos. But today it's all about the kangaroo, so let's jump into it. All right, so starting out, I'm using a 4000 pixel by 4000 pixel 300 DPI canvas. It's an RGB canvas. For my brushes today, I'm gonna start out with my Essential Creator set using the Brainstorm sketch brush. We'll stay in this set and then hop over to one of these other ones later on. And then for my color palette, once again, I've got this pre-made, so you can download this for free if you go to my website, bjdell.com. It's also linked down in the description below. It's underneath the YouTube reference materials page on the site. So let's go ahead and jump into it. First thing I want to do is add the K in the background here. So we're going to go up to our wrench and we're going to go to add and add text. Type in the K here, double tap to highlight it. We'll tap on the font here and we'll change this over to Arial, and I'm going to go with bold. I'm going to go grab my arrow here, make this bigger. I've got uniform selected down here, and then we'll get this centered. So with the orange lines, both vertically and horizontally, we'll know it's in the center. There we go. All right. So we're going to draw on top of this. So I want to drag this down underneath layer 1. And then I want to drop the opacity of this down to, we'll go pretty low, about 5–6%. We want to be able to see it. We just don't want it to be too dark. All right. So now that we've got that, we're going to start out sketching with black using that Brainstorm sketch. And kind of the way that I see this is we're going to have the kangaroo body and head kind of over here. So we'll have a head, kind of the body here, and then kind of have a leg and a foot down here. The other leg and foot will come down here, and then we'll kind of have the tail wrapping back here to form the K. So I know that's a really fantastic looking drawing right there, probably the best thing you've ever seen. That kind of gives you an idea of what we're going for ahead of time. So let me clear this out and we'll get started just using some basic shapes to begin with. So we'll use an oval here for the head. And then for the body, I usually use 2 different ovals and then kind of connect those, kind of like a lima bean shape. And we'll bring that back up into the head here. That neck will come back and around, just like that. All right, kind of continuing on then, I'm going to have an oval here and then an oval here. Those are going to be the knees. So that's going to kind of help us get these legs in here. So we'll pull this back just like that. This one we'll pull back like that, using the shape of the K there as kind of a guide. And we'll have the foot come down here. Just a big old foot. All right. Same thing here, kind of following this back and around. I'm going to have these kind of angled too, so they're going to have a pretty hard, sharp angle. Bring the foot back here and down and back. Just like that. Put some toes in there. And then we'll have the bottom of the foot colored in a different color there, so we'll do a line there so we know where that is. Really stylized version of a kangaroo here to make what we're working with the K actually possible. All right, now for the head, kind of bring this around here and back up. So kind of the snout or the nose will be coming down here. Kind of have that coming into a smile, and then have the nose here at the bottom. Have that angled. The ears here, we can kind of put some ovals in so we know where those go. Use those as a guide for the ears, get the inside part. Now once again, like I've said before in my videos, sketch stage is supposed to be really loose. So this looks really rough, and I don't spend too much time on the sketch stage as far as detailing. This is really just to kind of get the overall shape and feel of our design. I don't spend a ton of time on details just because we're going to go back in and trace over all this for the ink stage. So I don't like to spend a lot of time. We'll do an oval here for the eyes as I talk. So I don't like to spend a lot of time on the sketch stage, you know, making sure everything's perfect, because we're just going to go back over it. So I see it as kind of a waste of time. As long as we've got the general shape of everything, that's what this stage is for. All right, so now we've got that done. We'll do the tail here. So we'll have that kind of follow up and back down. I'll have the tail kind of a different color here on the bottom, so we'll get that in there. And then for the arms here, so I'm going to start out just kind of like an L shape here for the arms, and then we'll go and do the L on top. So we've got two L's stacked on top of each other, and that's going to come down into the paw here. So we'll bring that kind of curve back towards the back, and just like that. And we'll have this one here coming down too. All right. And then finally here we'll have another line for the belly, have that be a different color there. Just like the bottom of the tail, that'll be a different color. And that's going to be our basic sketch. Like I said, really rough, really loose. Well, let's turn off the K then. I'm going to grab the sketch here and we'll center it now. So grabbing the arrow here, get that centered. So we want vertical and horizontal. We know it's in the center then. There we go. So there's our sketch. We're ready now to move on to the next stage, which is adding the inks on top. So let's do that now. To begin, we're going to make a new layer on top of this. I'm going to hit the N for blend mode and drop the opacity down. Do about 15% on this one. Want it to, once again, be there, but not so dark that it distracts us from what we're drawing on top. With that then, I'm going to switch my brush over to the smooth inker here, and I'm going to tap this and go into the brush studio, and I'm going to turn on stabilization, the streamline. So going over here to stabilization, we're going to max this out. That'll help smooth out our lines because we've got a lot of kind of long, crazy lines here. And with that done then, we can kind of zoom in here and get started. So I'm going to begin with the nose here. So we'll get that in to begin with. Then I'm going to drag and drop color in. I'm going to hold down in the background here to select white because I'm going to draw a highlight there across. Then I'm going to hold down to select black again, and we can kind of continue on with our inks. We'll bring down our line here. I held down to kind of lock it in, but if you don't have enough of a curve, it's not going to lock that in. It's going to do a straight line. So there's a little bit more of a curve, so it locked it in there. So get the kind of smile line there. And let's see, I'm going to bring, let's do the head here. So we'll bring this down and around. Maybe bring it a little bit forward because that nose we've got coming out a little bit farther than we initially planned on. And you can see here this eye, I brought that out further. So the eye is not exactly where it was in the sketch. And that's one thing I've kind of preached for a while is don't worry about making sure everything on your inks lines up with your sketch, just because it looks a little bit mechanical by the time you're done with it. If you're making sure that everything's perfect with that sketch, it feels traced, and you want that kind of loose organic feel, and you'll lose that if you try to trace everything and make sure everything lines up perfectly with that sketch. I'm going to do the same thing here as I did with the nose. I'm going to hold down in the background to select white. add in a couple of dots here for a reflection in those eyes. Then we'll go back to black again. Continuing on here with the ears. Get those in there. And feel free to, if you don't like a line on the first try, do it again. That's what digital art's for. Erase here the overlap. One thing that's great about digital art is you're not locked into any of the strokes or the line decisions that you make. So quickly undoing and redoing lines is a great way to make sure that the lines have that look and feel that you want. All right, I'm going to continue this line down. This is going to be a big swooping line here. So this is where I like to come in and make a new layer for the line. That way I can start the line further up here, and then I can pull this line down like that. So I've got complete control over the size and the shape of that line, and then I can go in and I can just erase that line where it overlaps. Makes it super nice and easy as you're doing lines like this, where you want to have control over that line. You can start it past the line you've already done, and then just go in and erase, and you don't have to worry about hitting those lines that you previously did. This line here in the middle, that's going to be a little bit of a lighter line because it's not on the outside. It's not a outline. Now we can switch back to the head layer here. So this line, you can bring this down and back up, overlapping those lines that we did. And we can go back to that layer. We can erase those overlaps. You see how much time that saves. We don't have to make sure everything is perfect. We don't have to make sure that we stop that line before it hits. We can just erase, and it's not going to erase the line that we've already done. Makes it super nice. We can just keep jumping back and forth here to the lines that we've done before and erase without hitting those other lines. Just kind of continue this process on down here. Make sure I'm on, yep, this layer. Kind of do a little overlap there, a little kind of fold of the fur or the skin or whatever you want to call it there as that bends. Can erase those. I'm going to jump back to that other layer now for the interior part of the foot. Erase those. And just continuing on here now, I'm going to pinch these together so they're all on one. Then I'm going to make another new layer so that I can do this arm here. And I can do the same thing here that I did there. Well, let's see. We'll get this in here first. That little break for the different color there. I want these lines to have the right flow to them. And the taper at the end there is just lightly pressing and then pressing harder as the stroke continues. And we'll just erase those overlaps. Back to the arm layer here. And this one, let's see, I don't know if I want that to, yeah, I'll probably have that overlap here over the leg there. Just want it to match up from left to right here. Have those tapers come down. Once again, that little section there to break it up, and then back to the leg there to erase those overlaps. We'll pinch those together, make another new layer then for the tail so we can do the overlaps here. Have those come down, kind of taper it off the end there with a lighter line for that different color, and then just erase the overlaps. Okay. Pinch those together, and then one more new layer here. Didn't put it in the sketch, but of course we got to get that pouch in there. That's probably the most important part of the Kangaroo is the pouch. So we'll get that pouch right there. Erase those overlaps. That line's coming a little bit close. It's almost forming a tangent right there, so I'm going to do that one more time and kind of pull it up a little bit further here. So we'll have it there, and then have it come right there. All right, so we got the pouch in there. I'm going to turn off the sketch then, pinch these together, and there we go. We have our finished inked portion of the drawing. So now we're ready to move on and add the color flats. So to begin the color flats, what we're going to do is we're going to set this layer to reference. So we're going to tap this and select reference. I'm going to come down here underneath and make a new layer. Now with this set as reference, we can drag and drop our colors on here, and they will use this kind of as a guide of where they go. So let's start out with our first color here, drag and drop. I'm going to hit continue filling here, and we can just tap in here to fill all our colors. You'll see I keep hitting the line there, and right there, that little part of the arm. That done, then we're going to switch over to this one. Use that. Actually, let's not use that for the feet. Let's use that for the tail and the tummy and the pouch and the inside of the ears there. And then back to the color palette and the dark brown. We'll use that for the feet and the paws. There we go. Finally, then I'm going to come up here. I'm going to make a new layer. Actually, we can do it on this one to save some time. Let's just go ahead and select white in the background here. I'm going to drag and drop the color in then to the eyes. So we need those colored in. We had the white background on, so it looked like they were colored in, but they're not. So you can see now they are. So there we go. Color flats are done. This is probably the easiest, quickest portion of this method of creating with Procreate. So you can see how fast that goes. From there then, we're ready to jump in and do the shadows and then the highlights. So let's do that next. With this layer selected, I'm going to make a new layer on top, and then we're going to tap this and set this as clipping mask. So what this is going to do is it's going to allow us to color in on layer 5, and it's only going to show up on the portions that are colored in on the bottom layer 4. Makes it really nice because we won't go outside of the lines. So let's select this dark blue on our color palette, and I'm going to drag and drop and fill in pretty much everything on this right hand side. This is going to be where our shadows are. If you noticed here with the highlights in the eyes, I put those on the left hand side. Also with the nose, I put the highlight here on the left hand side, the thicker portion. So that means our light source is coming from this direction. So our shadow is going to fall on this side and then down here towards the bottom. I'm going to slowly kind of fill in some extra areas here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go into our layers menu and drop that opacity again, just like we did when we dropped the opacity on the sketch layer and the letter layer. Because we don't want that to be a dark blue, of course. So hitting N for blend mode and dropping this down, we can get that down to about 30%. I think that looks pretty good. The only thing is back here, I don't like solid areas like this filled in because there's no unshadowed area to kind of play against the darker color. So we're going to grab the eraser now. We'll have that set as the smooth inker here, and I'm going to make sure, yeah, stabilization, streamlines turned on there. And then I'm just going to pull out a little bit of a shadow there. So if we erase, you can see it just erases the shadow. I'm going to zoom in a bit here and pull off the shadow on that side. If you go too far, you can just hit the eraser there. And then we'll do the same thing here. So now we can actually see, okay, yeah, I get it. There's a shadow there because we've got that other color against it now. Just basically some rim lighting on the edges to bring home the idea of the shadow being there. Hit a little bit back here too, just so we can tell. All right, back here to the brush then, I'm going to start to color in. Some of these other areas, we'll get in underneath here a little bit. Not too much because there won't be too much of a shadow there because of the way our light source is coming. Get in here underneath this eyebrow. I'm going to drag and drop here on that back section. And we'll use the eraser to pull away from that left-hand side there. Back to our brush here. Pull in one shadow down the back here. So I'm going to curve that a little bit better with the shape of the head here. Kind of follow that same curve that the line has here. So I'm going to start off with a taper up here. That's what we're going for. Tapered line, and then it's going to kind of get thicker here towards the bottom. Just like that. You can also use the eraser to kind of fine tune. If you pull out a little bit too far, you can always use that to fix it. Pull a little bit of a shadow here on this side. Where that meets. Kind of taper that towards the ear. Back to the brush, tapered shadow here on the inside of the ear. So that's a little bit different of a color there. All right, pull them back here. We'll get underneath this arm here. Pulling it around this right hand side. Just like that. Pull a shadow here as well. I think I want that to be a little bit more curved instead of having that hard kind of triangle right there. Once again, you can go back to the eraser if you need to kind of have a give and take process there to get exactly what you're going for. All right, pull a little bit here on the bottom of that kneecap. And I think that looks pretty good for the shadows. Maybe a little bit more here on the back side of this arm. Just a tad bit right there. Okay, so that's it for the shadow section there. Let's go ahead and go to our color palette, and I'm going to switch over to this blue now for the shadows on the eyes. So we'll grab that and do a little blue on the insides of those eyes, so we got some shadow inside there. And then now we're ready to do highlights. So coming up here to the color palette, I'm going to select that color that we did for the belly. Then we're going to come back up to the layers menu and make a new layer. We're going to tap that, set that as clipping mask, just like we did the shadows. And then we can start to pull in some highlights here on the left. You'll see I'll pull this one down further, pretty much the whole length of this. We'll kind of taper it down there as it gets to the end. That filled in, and then erase any areas that we overlapped with. I think I'm going to continue that down into the arm too, so we'll just bring that kind of down like that. Maybe have a curve right there. Back to the brush, get a little bit of a highlight there and there. We do a little oval highlight here on the face. Pull a little bit of a highlight here on the top of that arm. You can see here as I've gone in closer, I can see I've got some areas that I kind of missed there. Got kind of a wonky area here. So that's why it's really good to zoom in quite a bit, because you'll see areas like that that you missed. If you stay zoomed out too far, you'll probably have that happen quite often. All right. And then kind of get one back here on this side too. kind of taper as well. So just kind of a back and forth there. Pull out too far. Twisting the canvas also will kind of help you if you're struggling with a line. Twist the canvas to see, you might feel more comfortable. Your arm's going to naturally want to go one direction over the other. As I zoom in there, you can see I kind of missed a spot there on that previous shadow layer, so I can go back in and kind of tweak that now. All right, now that we've got that done, we can go in and drop the opacity of our highlights layer. We can bring that down until we're happy with it. We've got it set at about 42%. I think that looks pretty good. And then on that shadow layer, I'm going to go back to that and just do a little bit of a shadow here where that ear is going to throw a shadow. Curve that around. All right, last but not least then, I'm going to go into the lines layer again. This is where I like to go back in with black. And with my smooth inker, I'm going to turn off stabilization now. And I'll go in and just add in a couple of little like hairlines around. I like to do this with animals just to add a little bit more detail. And these are just really quick tapered lines. So I'm pressing harder at the beginning of the stroke and then letting off pressure at the end. These are just kind of randomly wherever. These kneecaps, probably do like a little G there. I like to do those for kneecaps. Do that down here too. You can see there I'm missing another part of the shadow. I'm not really going to mess with it right now though. You get the idea. So get a couple more of these fur spots around here. Just wherever. On the snout here too, you could do a couple of dots for texture. Just whatever you want to do, whatever you feel comfortable to make it your own unique design. So there we go. Finally then, I'm going to make another new layer, zoom in here, sign this guy, and we will be done with today's tutorial. So there you go. How to draw the letter K as a kangaroo. As always, appreciate you guys watching. Thanks so much. If you enjoyed today's video, do me a favor, give it a thumbs up. Definitely helps other people see it. Feel free to share it too if you think it'll help out somebody else. And if you haven't yet, make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit that bell for notifications so you can get alerted when I post new videos. Got more in this series coming up. We've got L through Z, which brings me to the point. If you've got an idea for an upcoming video, an animal that you want to see for a certain letter, leave it down in the comments below and you might see your idea come to life in one of the upcoming videos, just like today's kangaroo. Also, if you follow along with the videos and you're on social media, if you're on Threads, X, Twitter, the whole nine, definitely post it there and tag me at BJDell. Love seeing what you guys come up with and really appreciate you following along with these tutorials. So share it off, feel free. So that's it for today's video. As always, appreciate you guys watching, and until next time, keep creating.